to start with some impersonations.
Hello, it's me, Patrick Mahomes. Yay!
Keep your day job.
Okay,
You've always had something special, Sam.
It was always your dream to be right here.
And you're gonna make it. I loves you.
Loves you, Graves.
Buried deep down where no one can see.
You wish someone would waltz in and wave a magic wand, catapult your career, make everything perfect for you.
It doesn't have to be like this. I have something that can change everything.
I'm the one who can make all your dreams come true.
Hi, gents. How are you doing? Nice to speak to you.
Good. Howard, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I feel very much like Jack Conrad on the latest show speaking to you. Thanks very much for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for a fantastic film. It was kind of like it's a real throwback. It's different to certain films that have kind of the similar theme of a dummy who kind of takes control of the owner, or whoever we want to say is the owner, or the dummy could be the owner of the other guy. But I'm quite curious. First of all, Kristoffer, for you, how did the script come to your desk? Was it kind of handed to you with a wax seal, and you had to sign it without even kind of thinking about it? How did the script come to you, first of all?
Yeah, I was given an invitation. It said all you have to do is sign, and we'll give you the script that'll change your life. No, I went to elementary school, actually, first grade, with this kid named Mark Oakley. Yeah. And he and I have known each other our whole lives, and he was kind of doing this dead-end gig as a copywriter, and he hit me up over Facebook in 2020, and he said, I have an idea. And I said, you have a story you want to tell? And he's like, yeah, I do. And I said, well, what is it? And he pitched me a little log line. And I thought, you know what? It's pretty good, Mark, but the only way to find out if it's going to have legs or not is if you write the script on spec. So I actually encouraged him to write the script. He wrote a 165-page script, and then we started kicking this thing back and forth. I'd give him notes. He'd do rewrites. He did all of it for free, so that by the time we were able to have a development fund and he finally was paid as a writer, he'd done the work. He'd been working 4 years for free, which is a pretty incredible thing.
Yeah, no, because I was reading about him a little bit. He's traveled. I mean, he's originally from Reno, which I think you're also from Reno, no? And then he's traveled around to Italy and San Sebastian. I'm living in Bilbao, which is about half an hour away from San Sebastian. So I was surprised to see that he actually lived here. Yeah.
Yeah, his wife is from
Spain.
From
San Sebastian, oh really?
Yeah. He married a Spanish woman. They have a little boy named Noah. Yeah, he's gone out into the world, and it's cool to see how this movie has changed his life. It's his son is now seeing his father as a screenwriter and as a co-producer. Like, it's a big deal, man. And we're doing the world premiere in Reno next week at the Pioneer Theater, which is like a big, theater for Reno, Nevada anyway. And it's just a special moment. It's a really special moment. Yeah.
Well, good for him, because I tell my kids I've got interviews with actors and directors, and they're like, another one, but not another one. So it's like,
they're like, so what, Dad?
Brilliant. Obviously, Kristoffer, Stephen, I mean, that's how the script came to be. But I mean, Kristoffer, you said that this idea was kind of you toing and froing with your friend there to kind of come up with this script. How soon did Stephen come on board? Was he originally the person that you wanted to play your grandfather in the film, or was that something that came a lot later on?
He was what you consider dream casting. I didn't know that when I sent the script to Stephen, I did not expect a yes, to be honest, if I'm being honest. I didn't know what to expect. Right. There are certain things that you kind of wish and hope for. And when Stephen read the script and we had a call where he was like, yeah, I think we could do this, I was floored. And it's almost like, the difference between like rocket fuel and then sort of trash. Like, I was all of a sudden, when I knew Stephen was playing Melvin, that I knew that the film had some rocket fuel in its tank. And I was like, oh, okay, we might have something here that's going to be a little more interesting than I thought. And elevated, because Chris Parnell came on after knowing that you were a part of it. Like, I think that there were layers of, okay, well, if Stephen's doing this, well, then I'll
the domino effect now, yeah.
Yeah, and there really was a really healthy domino effect, and so that was a big win for us.
Well, a lot of it is, Christopher and I had worked together, so I knew he wasn't a lunatic.
Right.
I knew he was a terrific actor. And so, when he said, I'm doing this film, it became more a matter of, well, let's do it. Let's do it, because you work on certain films, you never know if they're going to succeed or not. I mean, just as a brief sidebar, when I did Groundhog Day and that movie was released, the executive producer called me a month after the movie had been released and said, Stephen, I think the movie's going to be a success. Mm-hmm. And I said, you think so, Trevor? He says, yeah, the demographics. Like every week there's more people coming to the movie. And so I think that means people are seeing it a second time. I think we may have a hit. So you could do a movie like Groundhog Day and think like you're going to be trashed. I read this script and it was a classically good script. It had a terrific story. It had a good beginning, middle, and end. And Kristoffer and I had worked together, as I said before, so I knew he wasn't a lunatic. Well, not much of one.
Too crazy.
Not too crazy. But I knew it would probably be at a
crazy
certain
enough
point,
to pull it off.
You're interested in the experience. So I figured it was going to be a good experience.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because obviously talking about demographics, and like I mentioned earlier that there have been films about this puppet and these kind of things. Magic is obviously a film that comes to mind, and then kind of Stein's Goosebumps is what we'd think of Slappy. So I'm very curious. Like you said, there are films that have been there before that they've done really well. So how did you approach this one, making sure that it would reach that same kind of demographic, but at the same time bring something new that would work as well in your favor?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I knew that the dummy genre had been left untouched for a while. I think it's been probably 30 years to 20 years.
I just read that they're actually going to remake Magic. Sam Raimi is involved in producing.
Are they really?
Dear.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So now we're back in it. And I didn't want to make a stereotypical, I didn't want to do Chucky where the doll is animated by itself and becomes its own thing. And I was like, it's really important to me that Sam is always the tool through which Fergus, or the demon behind Fergus, is working. So if Fergus is the host, Sam is the human that the host attaches it to, and that's the power and that structure, that triangle of evil needs to always be consistent throughout the film. And I also I didn't want to make a movie that was going to be like a slasher, blood and gore. I wanted to make something that was PG-13. I was really cognizant of doing something in that like the Goonies trope. Right. I've said this all day today, but it would be if Stephen were telling us a ghost story at a campfire and we were all feeling kind of that weird, like, and you'd go and you'd turn around to make sure nothing was going to come out of the woods to get you. That was my hope for Mimics, was that it's spooky and there's some jump frights to it, but it's also something that a 13-year-old could see and enjoy and maybe take a lesson from. And the lesson being, what is the cost and what are you willing to die for it? And what is worth dying for,
Yeah.
There is.
Sorry.
I just want to bring this up too. Who really is the antagonist? When I look at a movie, I go like, who is the antagonist? Well, obviously Fergus is, but who is that? And in different movies, whether it be Magic or the other movies with the ventriloquist dummy, whatever that is, the antagonist is really something different. I mean, the spirit of the antagonist is different. And here the spirit of the antagonist is losing yourself to fame, mm-hmm. I think that's what it would be. Losing, the real evil is losing yourself. If you would have put that in capital letters. And that is different than some of the other horror films that this falls into the category of. And I think for me, it's very interesting because there's all sorts of ways that we lose ourselves these days without knowing we're losing ourselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm really, really glad you brought that up. I actually wrote down one of the quotes, which was kind of very specifically about that. It says, if you don't have your head on straight in show business will be the last thing that you'll be in, which is that kind of sums up the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially what you just said. So I'm curious, as a director actor's from a director's actor's perspective, and from you as well, Stephen. Did you approach this film like you just mentioned there, kind of like kind of informing yourself from your career, how you've had to kind of keep your feet on the ground and kind of stay level-headed in this business?
You're talking
your
to
performances.
Yeah, you're talking to two actors who I think very early on made the decision to belong to their families and belong to themselves versus belong to the world. And I think that Stephen's been happily married, has children, has grandchildren. I'm happily married, have children, looking forward to all the next stages. And there is a crossroads. And I think famously in America, we've got the story of the crossroads. We're old, what was his name? The famous guitarist that sold his soul to be able to play Robinson. Oh man, Roberts. Anyway, there's the famous story of the crossroads where the devil says, "Hey, give me your soul and I'll give you the gift of guitar." And the theology behind the movie is that there are these, before monotheistic culture became the reigning, mindset on earth, before there was the Judeo-Christian mindset, there was polytheism, and all of these different cultures and tribes and early cities worshipped many, many, many gods. And these gods were worshipped, and people sacrificed their firstborn, and they sacrificed virgins, and there was all sorts of stuff. And my theory was, what if these entities want to continue to be worshipped? And what if they use a host in order to do that? So like, what if Elvis was an amazing entertainer, but what if he also had this demon that wanted to be worshipped, and it used Elvis dies, and then it goes into Michael Jackson. And then Michael Jackson gets that kind of enthusiastic worship, and then he dies because he's used up, and then it goes on to the next, name the next one you want. But like, that to me was an interesting idea to explore. And like, I think Sam was a great entertainer. I think his road was going to be longer. I think that when he took the shortcut with Fergus, he jumped the line. And then as Stephen added this beautiful line to the movie, there was a cost to everything. And we've quickly learned that the shortcut that Sam decided to take, there's a huge spiritual cost to it. And I think that metaphor plays in our lives. I think that as humans, as in real life people, we can take shortcuts, and there will be an emotional or a psychological or a spiritual cost to that shortcut that will have ramifications in our lives. And so this is a bit of a warning, like a little parable.
No, very much so. Yeah, especially in like the last half hour, I really picked up on that message that it really came through from the film. Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
I was going to throw in too that one of the things in the script that reached me is not just who do you love, but what do you love? When that becomes the center of the film, it gives the entire movie a different sheen. If what you love is success or fame, or is it family and children and safety and health and love, yeah. Whatever it is that you're putting your love into is an important part of the script. And I think what Kristoffer did here is one of the things that gives it value.
Definitely,
is the object of love.
Uh-huh. By extension of that, the film it veers between comedy, horror. It gets very serious, very. There's some romance in there. There's all different kinds of emotions. That must have been really difficult to kind of create your own barometer and decide exactly where to go, not to go too slapstick, not to go too horror, not to go too sappy on people. How did you kind of judge that?
Well, thank you, Howard, for bringing that up. That's a cool thing that not a lot of people have talked about today.
It's a really tricky balance to get, because there's some great comedy, but there's some great horror, but some great kind of very serious romantic or kind of almost philosophical conversations going on all of a sudden.
Yeah.
In 90 minutes.
Thank you. the two playwrights that had the most profound impact on me as an artist were Anton Chekhov and Eugene O'Neill.
Right.
And both of those playwrights used comedy and levity and romance and not necessarily fright, but they would have, I think, if that genre were more prevalent for the stage. And so they interwove our lives consist of multiple things. I think films become one of the reasons why we might be losing our cinematic audience is because if we just give them the one thing, it's superficial. It's like, well, this is just gore and horror, and it's only going to keep you afraid, or this is only going to keep you romantically inclined, or this is only going to keep you thinking. Whereas I think we're ready as an audience and mature enough to accept that like life is as multifaceted. Movies should be as multifaceted as our life. And one minute we're laughing and then we're crying and then we get horny and we're like, man, I kind of want to just cuddle. Like there's all these things that happen to us as people constantly. And so our movies should reflect that. And I think that's, tried. It's really made it difficult to sell this movie because
that's what I was going to say, because money has a lot to do with it.
Money has everything to do with it.
Big producers want to sell an action movie or a straight out love movie or whatever it
and I've
will
learned
be,
that. That's something I just learned as a filmmaker. I was like, oh, I should have, like, had we chosen to go R and make it a horror film, everyone said you need more vulgar language, more gore, and some sex would have been nice. I mean, there's certain things that they're like, the audience is expecting this. And then Stephen and I both do a lot of Hallmark movies, and they're like, well, if you wanted to make a Hallmark movie, then you shouldn't have done any of this other stuff and aimed just for this. And that was kind of my whole thing. I was like, no, I want to tell a story that I want to be able to weave and dodge and move through a bunch of different genres. And let's see if we can. So to hear you say that we were able to pull it off, in your opinion, it means a lot to me. So thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, no, it works so well. They give me like 2 minutes, and I can't leave without asking a certain thing. I don't think it's a spoiler. That I mean, obviously you work with a ventriloquist dummy in the film, but there's a certain scene where you are in a goldfish bowl full of water, which reminded me. I don't know if it was inspired by a certain Radiohead music video. I don't know if you've seen. It was really?
Yeah,
all right.
Inspired by that. Yeah, Mark's like, see this? I was like, no, let me see it. I was like, yeah, we'll do that.
Because I know that they filmed that music video in about 3 or 4 times faster than they played the music 4 or 5 times faster, so that he didn't have to hold his breath as long.
Oh,
so I'm quite curious. I mean, it looks like you really went through hell and back in some of those scenes. Was it as real as it appears on that?
It is 100% as real as it is. Yeah,
really?
I'm able to hold my breath for about like. If I just put my face down in the water and float in the pool, I can hang out for about 1 minute and 50 seconds. Mm-hmm. And when your body's using oxygen, I'm good for about 1 minute and 20, minute 30. So each one of those takes was, and I wanted that to be reflected in the edit. So I made sure that Barry kind of kept we timed it. And I was like, yeah, that's the timing. That's how long I held my breath for. So you can actually hold your breath with me if you wanted to. But it was, that was intense. Like I had a bowl and it got filled up with water and I had to hold my breath. And the first time was ice cold water and it literally took my breath away. And I had to abort the first take because I lost all my air. And so then I had to kind of go, okay, now I understand what's going on. And that the time it takes to fill the bowl up to how long I can hold my breath. So at one point we used a little snorkel so we could get the thing filled up, and then took that out, and then I had a full 1.5 minutes to hold my breath. But it was a practical effect. It's not. I did my own stuff.
Really, because it's like there's a camera, there's a shot from behind. So at first I assumed maybe it was some kind of effect, but then because we can see a shot from behind as well, I was like, is he actually really doing this? But you did it. He did Tom Cruise, eat your heart out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Give me that. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for a fantastic film. I wish you the best of luck with the release, and I hope to get to speak to you again sometime soon.
Howard, it was our pleasure, man. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, all the very best. Have a great day. Have a super duper day.
Yeah. Be careful, Sam, because if you don't have your head on straight, show business will be the last business you are in.
There's a cost to everything, Sam.